Hey, good morning, guys. So, I'm going to be doing a little bit more in terms of some streams over the next couple of days. I've got a few things that I'm finding kind of interesting. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put, I suppose, more of the bulk content onto YouTube, and then I'm going to be doing some more maybe regular streams on TradingView. So, I think if you see a TradingView stream, then ideally you want to jump across to YouTube because I've probably uploaded a slightly bigger one. And the reason for that is that some of what I want to say, I know it's kind of against some of the trading view policies, and I want to show obviously some of what we've been doing and talking about. So it's kind of outside of the trading view kind of community as a whole. And this is obviously part of what we teach within Discord, what we've been showing, what obviously my new book is all about, etc., etc. So ultimately, I want to start with kind of explaining, I guess, in terms of where we are, and as I've explained over the last 2 years, really, in terms of following Bitcoin, right? So again, what I'm going to do for you guys who already follow me, for you guys who already know, you've already seen these videos. This is just kind of highlighting to the newer followers, newer viewers, in terms of obviously, why I think we're doing what we're doing. Okay, so let's start off with, first of all, there's a couple of posts, like I said, that I've streamed, a couple of posts that I've put out there in terms of just, tactical kind of information. Right now, I've done this over the last couple of years since I've been able to make some of these posts a bit more public. And as you can see from this particular one, right, like I said, this is for you guys who are new to following me. These are some of the calls that I've made publicly in terms of putting this out there, right? So some of these are kind of educational, right? You can go into, for example, this reaccumulation. You can go into it almost exactly why, right? I've talked about, I've traded 20 years. I've seen this kind of time and time again. This for me was the first one to actually start to see, professional players coming into the market, right? So as you can see throughout this post, there's an awful lot of depth in this post for you to come and spend some time to research, etc., etc., right? So what I'll do is I'll stink a link to this one up in the description or up in the top corner as they do in terms of YouTube. And you can obviously click on this and come and view it later or whatever you want to do. All right. So obviously, as you can see, reaccumulation, why I was calling the top at the first all-time high, the first major all-time high at 64, why I was explaining this is going to come down to the 28. This was explained as early as March, right? You could see this March the 18th, why I was talking about these levels, these numbers, what we were likely to do, why I would say we come down to go back up, to come down to go back up, to ultimately fall down. So you get A, B, C. This for me was the A, the B, the C, followed by the D, and then the D basically dropping all the way down into the target range before we go and make, the new all-time high. All right, so these kinds of things are pretty straightforward when you understand what's going on, in every aspect of this, right? So, like I said, I've covered all of this all the way through, even down to on the way back up to the new all-time high, why we would likely get to just above 65k, and then ultimately see 40k again very quick, right? And this was obviously in August, 24th of August. So you could see, on the way to the November high, I'm already talking about the move down and the move back up, right? And you can see these things from a mile away, right? This is obviously something else. So, from August, where we to, let's put August on there, 24th of August. I've got to go back in time a little bit more. This is November, before this even. That's a hell of a long way back. So, as you can see, August the 24th, roughly there, why I was saying we'd go down to go up, right? We'd see just above the 65, grab the liquidity, and then we'd see 40k again very quick, right? So I'm going to stick 40k on there. And as you can see, 40k become the main central focal point for on that move down, right? This was basically the redistribution, okay? So going through each of these steps, right? This is not, magic. This isn't kind of just guessing. This is obviously a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, in terms of kind of putting this together and explaining ins and outs as to why, right? So coming into the shorter time frame now, so this is for you guys who are already following me, and obviously for you newer guys as well. But in essence, where I think we are and what I think we've done, right, is a couple of different things. I'm going to take my charts completely clean. I'll put these out. So what I want to do, I want to start by kind of explaining a couple of different things in terms of where we are, at the moment, right? Now, actually, before I do that, what I'm going to do is we've actually got our anniversary this year. This is the second year in terms of running the Discord. So again, I'll put this link in the description. We've actually got another lifetime offer. We've actually just created. This is going to be available all this week. So we've actually got the pay in crypto option as well as the launch pass option, and both will be shared up in the description. I'll do one followed by the other. I'll put them in the bottom as well as at the top corner. So in essence, where I think we are, I guess, kind of at the moment, right, is we've had the reaccumulation, we've had the first distribution, we've had then what I would call maybe the larger reaccumulation back in a similar zone, right? We then ultimately come up, we had the reaccumulation on the smaller time frame. So in essence, what we've got is this here basically marries this move, okay? These two moves combined, right, is basically where liquidity is set. Okay, so you'll see, in there, right? There's going to be a lot of volume moved, a lot of action in here, right? So what we then have is the first kind of move back down, back into this kind of pocket, gives us the redistribution, right, at now underneath the same value area. Right? So all of this becomes a bigger accumulation for a move up, right? So as I've explained in some of the other streams, I think we got two options. We've actually got the first option where we see, a low down zero, up to one, whatever it was, back down two, and then ultimately we have a three, a four, and a five, right? Now, the trouble for me on this one, although I still probably like this one a little bit more, is that if we have an A, a B, and a C, we actually broke, I think it was something like 19,800, right? So in a pure Elliott wave fashion, we've actually broke this for a move, right? If this was what I was regarding as the monthly three, monthly four, okay? Now, the reason for that, and the reason that I kind of like this one a little bit more, is that the second option would put us in a much, much, much bigger time frame, right? And I'm not going to go into the kind of, the grand cycle, super cycles, and so on and so on. But the general idea, right, is that if this was actually a larger scale one, and this is a much larger scale two, then ultimately this would lead us to, some really high kind of influencer type numbers, right, in terms of the key levels that you could be looking at. Now, the reason that I kind of feel this is still an option, but it's my kind of second option rather than my preferred option, is that when you put all of this together, right, a lot of people are saying to me things like, if what if this is redistribution? Well, I think for me personally, this was the redistribution, right? So we've come into a much, much larger, this is kind of the next time frame up. And if this was the monthly, then obviously we're talking, an annual move in essence, right? So for me, I talked about back in October last year about this particular accumulation zone, right? Now, what we have in this is, like I said, back from October last year. I put this out with a view of where we were coming based on some point and figure levels, right? And we've done, exactly what I think, we should be doing. Now, the main question, which is why the arrow still sits there, is whether or not this was the ST or the ST and B. Right now, again, if you don't know Wyckoff, going to start with our free Skillshare course. We've obviously got some education in our Discord server. We've obviously got the lifetime membership now available again for the next week or so on that. But in essence, guys, if you don't know Wyckoff, this is something you should kind of get at least a little bit of a grasp of in the grand scheme of things. I feel with the volume profile and the volume factors kind of in play, I kind of feel where we are and what we're doing right now, we're still pretty early on, right? We're still probably in a phase B of this move, right? Probably up to, wherever we come down. So let's just say, let's assume we come to here. I'm currently looking at a daily time frame, right? Now, if we do this on, let's just say, a weekly, right? You can see I move these out the way. These are something else I want to show you in a minute. If I move this across like this, okay. So what you have to look at, right, is we've had potentially a massive move, right? So like I said, if this is a monthly move, for example, up the top, and we've seen this as then the smaller redistribution, we're either back in a monthly, right, which is, obviously can easily last a long time, or if this is actually the one and we've come down for a two, we're talking about an annual move, right, which is a much, much bigger cycle, right? So in the grand scheme of things, if this comes all the way across here, it wouldn't surprise me, right? And I'm not saying that's what we're going to do. I'm saying it wouldn't surprise me, right? So we've got to ask the first question is, monthly or annual, right? That's going to be a big factor in terms of, where. And this is one of the reasons I think I like the monthly a little bit more, right? Is that the smaller time frame, even with the breach of the lows, it's only grabbed liquidity, which means if you're a pure Elliottician, the reality is you've probably now classed this move as invalid, right? And this is something that I think is where the interest for me actually lies. So coming obviously into this, I think we are, accumulation early on, right? I think we're in trouble. And again, I've mentioned this in the last couple of streams. I think we're in trouble if this is what we're regarding as an impulsive move, right? And the reason I say that is that when you put your simple Elliott wave moves in, you'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, extension 5, right? Which means this would give us a smaller scale 1. Either which way, we come back down for an ABC, right? Minimum, bare minimum, we might be looking at an a B, followed by a C back into the range. You're going to have to use the liquidity range, right? Coming into a 2. Now, if you run fib extensions based on this as a key level, right? And what I'll do is I'll play 2. I know I've shared this a few times as well. I'll play 2. If we class this as a 0 to a 1, we're going to have to put some kind of box in and around the 2 areas that I got in green there, the 5, 8, the 5, 0 and the 6, 1, 8, right? So we stick that box in there as a bare minimum, right? More likely this blue box number 2, because 2 are going to be pretty much deeper anyway. Then what you have to assess then is from this, we're going to go 0, 1, back down 2 minimum, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if we run these extensions, again, I've done this time and time and time again. We're going to run the extension 0, 1, back down 2 for now. We'd have to see a 3, 1, 6, 1, 8. Likely to see that back as the 1. And then we're ultimately likely to see, and although they can hyperextend and they can go up, we could see a 3, 6, 1, 8. We're talking about a level there of sub 80k, right? And that's with a hyperextension. If we come to the regular extension, we're talking about a new high if this is a 1-2 move, right? Which is why I feel that it's probably not, right? Because I do think we will go above the all-time high. Possibly not by much, but I do think we will go above this all-time high on the next major rally, right? And I think this, again, for lots of reasons, pretty much like why I was calling this move here in terms of only going above this previous high, is that there's going to be liquidity and new orders, obviously, up and above that level, right? So this is definitely an option, definitely a play. Now, the second option, obviously, is we drag down the 2, right? We come down for the 2. We then stick another one of these on. And I'm going to go now 0, wrong one. I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, as I've just did on the last one. 0, 1, and back down for a deeper 2, which puts us, similar kind of levels, right? We're only talking 44k, then we're talking 34k, and then we come back for a 2618 at 61, right? So either which way, kind of much of a muchness, right? We got probably a little zone, little area kind of up there. Now, The reason that I'm kind of thinking this could be a play, right? The only problem being is that if we have that, we don't even get another all-time high in the foreseeable future, right? We go back up into the 60K region, that's fine. We're not going to see 80K, we're not going to see 100K. We're definitely not going to see 250 or a million if this is the current situation, right? Which then brings me back to say why I feel the situation is earlier as a schematic is that when we have a one and we have a one over here somewhere, we're likely to see a more impulsive move back into the liquidity range. We're likely to see a more aggressive two back into these kind of regions. And then we're likely to see a much greater impulsive three, right? Potentially up to the current all-time high type levels, right? Now that for me personally is a much preferred option, right? And it's not just kind of hopium. It's not just me saying, oh, well, I hope this is where we go and I think this is what we're likely to do. I kind of feel from, the 20 plus years experience that I have in this market, in this kind of field as a whole, I kind of feel that retail are going to want this to break that all-time high. Composite man is also going to want this to break that all-time high. However, composite man needs to stay in control, right? He's going to want to stay in control. So putting all these little bits and pieces together, right? This is where I think we are probably preferred route right now. Okay, I'm going to get rid of some of these. Now, the next thing is, right, some of the, what I've talked about more recently, especially in the group, is I've talked about these kind of key levels, right? Why in March I was talking about this distribution, this is a smaller time frame, why we would get the distribution, why these levels, where we were the UT at the 29, why we'd come up for a UTAD just above the 29 and then ultimately fall down, right? So these things, as you can see, the 30th of March, you can see, what we were doing, you can see what we've then done, right? So again, come in smaller time frame, where we were, let's put this 30th of March figure on. Where am I? March the all the way across 21st, 30th of March, right? Why obviously I was saying we'd come in, we'd have the UT, and then ultimately we would drop down, right? This is basically where we are at the moment. So we still pretty much early on there for me was the UTAD, and then we started that drop down, right? We've got a couple of other things obviously happening. We've got, smaller time frame. We've got this kind of ascending move. You're likely to break it. Once you break it, you come down again. There's going to be liquidity obviously underneath some of these levels. Okay, so I'm expecting this to kind of do its thing. I still like the STB move. Bigger picture. I still like that as a whole. Now, the next thing is obviously I shared, actually I think it's a much, much bigger time, push on a 3 monthly. I shared where we are, bigger picture, right? I've got to zoom out and put these back on, I believe. Here they go. So to start with, the advanced get software is currently showing this as the move up, right? So it's on a daily. So we have to keep in mind if we've had a daily move, we got the oscillator down at the bottom turning negative, which means it's supporting the move down with the ascending channel up, breakthrough, and which will give us an A, followed by a B, followed by a C, kind of step one, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is out on a weekly. The suggestion is that we haven't quite finished the first A move because we are likely to see a 5-3-5 or some type of move similar, right? In obviously a counter trend pattern, right? So this is again kind of a corrective wave potentially. I don't like this as kind of a pure downtrend. I think we'd have to go to kind of zero levels for this to be, a proper bear market at the moment, which is why I think we're going to go kind of hyper extension into a much bigger run, followed by a long-term bear market, right? And with what I've posted recently on DXY, this one here, this explains a lot in terms of why I think this again supports this particular Bitcoin move, right? So We've got an ascending channel. We've come up with practically no volume, right? People will say things like, oh, well, the volume's going to be less, as the price rallies up. Yeah, of course. However, you compare that to relative volume, back at these prices the first time round, and we're not even a blip on the chart, right? With the same price. So I think for me, where we are at the moment is still pretty much early on in that schematic, right? I'm going to put the stochastic back on. Now, stochastic wise, I think this supports my accumulation phase, right? This, put the arrow in the wrong place. This supports the accumulation, right? Early on. I think, we've had kind of the test of the waters up high. It's a 3 monthly candle, right? So we've had the test of the waters up high. It's a composite man kind of just dipping his toe in to see where there's any resistance, where there's any likelihood in terms of lack of interest, right? Now, at this particular point, crypto Twitter and the whole kind of media outlets, they're all starting to turn, positive Bitcoin, which is normally a good sign for, let's go short. So, in the grand scheme of things, I think we're already at overbought territory on a monthly time frame. We've got a move up with practically no volume, right? You can see the volume being depleted as we rally on up, right? Two good signs that, we are not really impulsive yet, right? This is, again, just supporting the theory of being early in an accumulation phase. We have the weekly time frame. Oh, guess what? We're already overbought. We've got, again, kind of depleting volume. Look at the volume. Look at that green volume, there to there, right? That's absolutely nothing. If you compare that relatively to even some of this red sitting over here, some of the red sitting over there. If you were impulsive and you think this move is impulsive, you'd expect that to be, mighty, powerful, wanting to kind of break to some new kind of key levels. The fact is, like I said, if we've got a 0 or 1 followed by a 2, 3, followed by the 3, 4, up to the 5, we're only now starting to see an A move of another move back down, right? So worst case scenario, even if we're only coming down a little bit more, we're likely to revisit, 25, maybe 23. 23 to 25 is a nice little region in terms of where we sat, right now. Okay. So I think for me, nothing's really changed, big picture. We got a couple of other things, kind of key levels. So again, kind of key levels here. There's a little bit of an auction zone around, exactly as I've just said, around 23. That's 23.1 there. I think smaller time frame has come into the daily. I think smaller time frame, we could probably expect a little dart up based on the daily. So the dart back up, giving some kind of false hope all over again. So I'd like to see another little rise, followed by the following weekly in terms of its drop. All right. Now, where I feel on a maybe smaller time frame is we could easily come back. Let me just check what that is. Just 24. What's this one? 20. Yeah, 24, 25, 23. So I think for me, the key area, key zone, smaller time frame is probably this one, right? And then I think I'd like to reassess the character kind of as we get down here. So I like to go kind of up to down into this kind of region somewhere, and then from there, I'd like to see kind of what Bitcoin, what the story, what the whole thing is trying to tell me, at that particular point, right? Um, what else we've got? So I think on this one, yeah, I think at the moment, guys, even XTL, we're red, we kind of we're not in any kind of bullish trend there at the moment. Like I said, depleting volume, bigger time frame, ascending move with again lack of volume. I think we go up, kind of test maybe the underside of some of these levels, some of these liquidity zones and pools sitting there, and then ultimately back down for a bigger grab. This is where we get retail kind of excited all over again, and buy every dip, is every influencer's call, every side face meme, what meme I say, meme is a thumbnail, but meme to the rest of us. So I think in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of up a little bit to come down. I'm relaxed in terms of early stage accumulation, and this is where we are. So obviously I'm going to be doing a few more things. As I mentioned at the start of the video, I'm going to be doing a few bits and pieces on TradingView. And the reason, for then putting a little bit more out there is I've actually got a book being released. We've actually just had Waterstones, one of the biggest book companies in the UK, take this on, which is brilliant on a personal level. And obviously, we're launching this on the 11th, so it's already available on Amazon. It's already available in Waterstones. We've got some really, really interesting things coming up with some podcasts and some interviews and so on. Some really, really kind of colossal publications. And yeah, it's kind of exciting times. So I think for me, the fact that we can kind of roll this into where we go next is obviously pretty awesome, all around. So I'm excited for the next couple of months. To be honest, it's starting to look a little bit interesting. Kind of years are being peaked, and I think now's a good time in terms of getting into this trading malarkey. So anyway, I'm going to leave this video as it is. Thanks for watching. And like I said, the links to the current lifetime memberships are in the bottom and probably back at the top as well right now. So yeah, enjoy this week and thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next stream.